Bump and Run with Bernie and Dahlby. Presented by Burrito Express, your local burrito joint. Now, here's Brett Bernheisel and Steve Dahlby.
All right. Well, last week the big news on the show was that we signed a sign company to help us with our shows going forward. And last week was show 6. This week is show 7. Dahlby 7s. 6 plus 1 is 7. We are at show 7. Your thoughts on that?
I'm happy that we're at 7, but let's get to about show 100.
Okay, so in the pre-show, I let our executive producer, Chris Schubert, who also owns this show, let him know that I'm going to be wearing a different shirt for every single show. So if we get to 100, I'm going to have to find some new shirts because I don't quite have 100 shirts to wear doing this.
You could just do laundry.
But I'm going to wear a different shirt. That's my whole thing. I like
every
to change
time.
Things. With you, I mean, the clock hasn't moved. You said you were moving to a different room last week. You haven't. Have you named it? Let's get right to it. Have you named the room yet, or are we still pondering?
No, but I said I was thinking about moving to a different room, and I'm still thinking about that. I haven't decided.
It's your decision, though, right? It's not anybody else in the family's decision. It's yours?
Nope, it is all mine. But for today, time stands still.
It always does. And everybody always
Yes.
asks, why doesn't Dahlby change the clock? And I'm like, you ask him. Anyway, Tony Finau, we've talked about him in the last, back when you and I were on radio, or back even when we started this podcast 7 shows ago, how he couldn't get it done. He got it done today, Dahlby. He got it done. He putted. He made putts. He made putts that mattered. He got it done. And you know what? I really think that the monkey is now off his back. Stricker congratulates him after he wins today in a live conference, our live phone call that your friend Boyd Summerhays taped that went on Twitter, congratulating him and telling him that he's made the Ryder Cup team for this year. What'd you think? What do you think of Tony and your thoughts on today on how he finally came through, made the putts that mattered, where in the past where he's always been the guy that was there, didn't get it done. Today he got it done. This is his second victory, his first, and I think 5 years since he won. I want to say Puerto Rico, but I thought he played so well today that I think we're going to see more of him to come right away.
Well, and I think when you look at Tony Finau and look at his game, he hits it, he hits it miles. He is a good ball striker. Coach Boyd Summerhays does a hell of a job with him. The thing that's been the bugaboo since 2016 is that he can't get it done. And, he couldn't, that final round, he couldn't get it done. He couldn't finish on a Sunday. And maybe, just maybe, because it was a Monday, he was able to get it done. And it's not because of the difference of Sunday and Monday, but I don't know if you saw, Bernie, yesterday they asked a few players what would they do, knowing that they had the day off. And a lot of them talked about just going to chill, whatever. Tony Finau said that he was going to work on his putting in the hotel room or at the house that he was staying at. And maybe that was a good thing, where it was just to focus on putting. I don't know how much he did. I'm sure he didn't putt all day yesterday, but it was great to see him come out today and finish one off, because it has been sort of the thing where he just can't get it done, and it's been missing putts. And today, almost really a flawless round of golf, with the exception of kind of a sloppy bogey on the 8th hole, on the front 9. He did really well. And the thing that he hasn't been able to do is finish. And today, to shoot 30 on the backside, coming in, put pressure on all the guys. John Rahm had a 2-shot lead, and that was 1 shot. And Rahm was the guy that on 15 makes bogey, finishes 15 bogey, par, bogey, where Finau, was his back 9 was par, birdie, eagle, birdie, par, par, and then he hit good shots in the playoff, and it was nice to see him win. And I was glad that Strick invited him on the Ryder Cup team right afterwards. And I think he's perfect for a Ryder Cup, and I think everybody's going to love to see him at Whistling Straits.
I think there's two guys, and I'll say this before this week. There's two guys' careers that. What's that cup say?
This is.
What's your cup say?
So when I was in at Colonial for the tournament at Colonial, there's a place called Railhead Barbecue. It's in Fort Worth, and it's really good barbecue. So it's about 15 minutes away from Colonial. A lot of the guys go over there, and I took a couple trips this time over to Railhead for some ribs and some different stuff. So yeah, it was good.
But it said something about Dallas. I didn't.
So yeah, on the one side, so you got the Railhead here. On the other side, because it's in Fort Worth, they say life is too short to live in Dallas. Yep. When you're from Fort Worth, there's that competition.
Sure. So the question I was going to ask before I saw the cup, before this week, there's two guys, and this is strictly my opinion, two guys that I think have had the potential to be superstars on the PGA Tour and that had not fulfilled expectations of whether it's golf media, golf fans, or whatever. And those two people were Tony Finau and Rickie Fowler. And Fowler, as we know, we talked about, had a miserable year this year. If you had to rate those two guys, do you agree with me that they both had disappointing careers as far as? And I'm not saying money. They got plenty. They both made plenty of money. They both been successful. But as far as like getting the job done and what counts in the PGA Tour, I guess at the end of the day, from a fan's perspective or media perspective, is how many wins you have. How many majors do you have? Now, neither one of them have a major. Fowler's won the Players' Championship, but this is only Tony's, and it's hard to believe, but it's true. It's only his second win. And the first win was an opposite field event. So he goes from winning an opposite field event now to the FedEx Cup playoff victory. Give me your thoughts of those two guys and what has stopped them before and what they can change to do what. And I'm probably rambling here, and I do that a lot. But these guys were the guys that.
I think, Bernie, when you look at Rickie Fowler, you look at a guy that as a junior player was a can't miss. He went to Oklahoma State. He played very well. He gets right out on tour. The thing with Rickie Fowler, he hasn't won as much as I think many of us thought he would. And there's many who think that Rickie has spent so much time building his brand, and he's got a hell of a brand. There's more kids wearing orange watching Rickie Fowler play than most. And I think Butch Harmon one time sat Rickie down when he was working with him, and he said, enough Instagram, let's work on the golf game, basically. And that is the one thing with Rickie that you wonder if he's more worried about his brand than he is about winning golf tournaments. With Tony Finau, I'm looking at kind of his career, and he's had a stretch where he's been on the tour since 2015. And in strokes gained, you've got off the tee approach, around the green, putting. He's done really, really well in 2015, which was this first year of this stretch. His total strokes gained, he's 33rd on tour. That's good. In 16, he's 95th on tour. He happened to win that year, but he was 95th. Then we go on a stretch. 2017, he's 15th overall in strokes gained. 2018, he's 7th. 2019, he's 35th. Last year, 2020, he's 12th. This year, he's 19th. So for somebody that in strokes gained does so well overall, and he hasn't won as many as you would have thought he would. The one thing in his strokes gained, the putting, and he's 99th on tour. He is on the plus side in strokes gained this year, but he's 99th. That seems to be, especially I think on Sundays, he's probably worse than 99th, and I think that's been the problem. So what you said, Bernie, is today the putts went in. Let's take a look today. In strokes gained putting, he was 2.33, so he was 2.5 shots ahead of the field today in putting. That's what won him the tournament, and that's what if he can continue to do that, that's what will win him many, many more tournaments, and I think will allow him, with his ball striking and his length, he should be a guy that plays well in Ryder Cups, that wins or contends in majors. I think, and like you said, and my hope is that we see much, much more of Tony Finau. He's a good guy, and I think he's good for the tour.
John Rahm came out after Saturday's round, and he criticized the playoff system, that he doesn't think it's fair. So let's just hypothetically say Finau wins this event. Let's say Finau wins next week, and then Finau plays like shit the final event and doesn't win the Tour Championship. Rahm was adamant about he doesn't like the way the playoff system is. Do you agree with him, or is he just, whatever?
No, I don't agree with him at all. I think the playoff system is set up like it's set up. The setup of the playoff system. So if you want to win the Tour Championship, you need to win the last one, right? So everybody knows that, and I understand what he's saying, but I don't think you change the rules just because you think you should change the rules. I don't agree at all.
Okay, I mean, I get his point. If there's a 3 playoff system, you win 1, you win 2, you're guaranteed, I guess, to finish in the top 5. I guess that's how this thing runs now with all these so many different points because it's the playoffs. But I mean, so if a guy, I guess my point is, and I'm kind of on his side a little bit, and that's, I'm the guy that doesn't agree with most things anyway. You win, you finish 7th, and you don't win the Tour Championship, where a guy can finish 9th, 3rd, and then win the final event and win it. That's my point. I think that's kind of where he's going, because you can dominate this week, you can dominate next week, and then have a rough performance where you finish. There's only 30 players, and you finish maybe 26th. So you got to win 26, and you finish 4th.
No, that's all bullshit. Who wins the World Series? Is it the team that wins the last game of the World Series?
Yeah.
Generally, that's who wins. Who won the NBA playoffs? I feel bad for the Suns. Who won? Milwaukee. They won the last game. This is the last game. It's the Tour Championship. You play the first 2 to put yourself in a position to win the last game. So no, this is all bullshit.
All right. Back-to-back weeks where Dahlby got upset.
It's just a dumb thing to say. The playoffs are set up like they're set up, so you go with it. Now, if he wants to be commissioner and change the rules, then take Jay Monahan's job. That's fine, but don't try to change the rules. The rules are the things set. And he should be happy. Today, I mean, he's put himself, he should be happy. He screwed up today. I bogeyed 2 of the last 4, but he should be happy that he's in a position where at least he's in a position where he should be having a chance that 3rd tournament. So no, I don't agree at all.
Okay, I'm going to try this for the 3rd time. Victor Hovland today got pissed and broke his putter on, I think, like the 7th hole. And, putted the rest of the round with a wedge. If you broke your putter during a tournament, what would you putt with?
Sandwich, bladed sandwich.
And that's what he did, and he actually putted better.
Yeah.
He and just so everybody knows, if you break a club on purpose, you can't replace it. But if you break a club on accident, which doesn't happen very often, you can get that club replaced. Somebody's going to have to go to the trunk of your car or your garage or your locker room and find another putter. But I thought it was very interesting today. Here's Hovland that's I don't know, he was in the top 6, 5 starting today, breaks his putter, and then goes out and shoots like 78. And then you got Jordan Spieth, Dahlby, and that's why I was started with this. Jordan Spieth today made back-to-back triples, went from second in the FedEx Cup now to 9th. He had can you explain how a guy can shoot 62 one day and then come out and shoot 78 or 79, whatever he shot today?
Well, I think you look at how Jordan Spieth plays. It's very. He has a very swashbuckling style. It kind of hits it all over. He hit it in the other fairway the other day, hit it and it should have been, or maybe it was in the hazard, and then he chips it in for birdie. He does that kind of stuff, which is awesome. But there are going to be days where not everything lines up. And if you're hitting it that crooked, there are going to be days where things aren't quite right. But, I feel I'm happy for Jordan. I think he's had a good season. I think he's kind of back. But there's still a little bit of sort of that ball striking. It gets a little crazy sometimes.
Unfortunately, Troy didn't play very well this week. Went from 69 to 78, so he's not in for the rest of the year. When you're a player like your player that misses, do you tell him to take a few weeks off, refocus, or is it, let's go out, next week and start hitting balls and beating it again? What is your formula for like some of your players, and what do you think they should do?
Well, I think it depends on the player. In Troy's case, I texted him. I think I texted him Friday and just said, "Hey, are you heading back to Boise today, tomorrow?" He was heading back Saturday, so he got home Saturday, and then I talked to him today, and I actually said, I guess on Friday we talked about what fall season tournaments he's potentially playing in. The first one obviously is the Napa event. New sponsor in Napa this year as well. But I talked to him today and I said, I think, I said, is there any golf in the future? And I said, I think you should take a week off and just kind of rest the body. He's played a lot this year, played in a lot of tournaments this season. And I kind of thought, just take a little time off and then, regroup. And I think, when is that first tournament? It's 3 weeks from now? So the week of September 13th. So we've got a little bit of time. And I think for him, his game's in good shape. Didn't play as well as we would have hoped in New Jersey, but take a little break and then kind of get back to it. He's not a guy that's going to be out there for 4 hours working on the range, working on his swing. So I think for him, it's a good idea to just take a little break, and then we'll get to it in the Fortinet Championship. No longer the Safeway, Fortinet. I don't know what company that is, but they're the new sponsor. It's still at Silverado, so that week of the 15th of September, and then the week after is the Ryder Cup. So there will be a little break this year in the fall season where you've got the Napa event, Ryder Cup, and then it moves on from there. So I'm excited that he's going to take a little break and kind of rest up a little bit. If it was another player who maybe was struggling with their game, it might be a different story where you take the time off and make some changes to the game, and maybe change some things in the swing, make some adjustments in the putting stroke, change equipment, that kind of stuff. But I think it just depends on a player, what they want to do in the break.
Okay, you brought something up that I didn't even think about until right now. You talked about changing equipment. Now, the 2020-21, or wherever the hell it is, ends after the Tour Championship in Atlanta. Do players, is this when they sign new contracts with, whether it's, when Troy plays with Titleist or Wilson or whoever it might be? Is this where they sign their contracts for the new upcoming season? And do you think it's an issue that players, or it's a fault of players, I should say, not issue, a fault of players that change equipment because of the financial money that they get I've noticed in the past, and we've talked about it, that players, this particular company is going to give you XYZ to play their stuff, or this company now is going to come out and give you XYZ to play their stuff, and it's more money. And the reason I ask is I remember a few years ago when Bubba Watson, who used to be a Titleist guy, changed to that
crazy ball.
Yeah, the crazy
Volvic.
ball Volvic for all that money, and his game went to complete shit. And then he ended up going back. I think players, in my mind, get greedy because they see, I can get $250,000 to play this equipment and this ball, but then I sacrifice what I could possibly make because the PGA Tour pays so much money for these guys. You win $1.8 million or $1.6 million to win a golf tournament. I would think $200,000 for people that already have the money, that don't need the money. I think that's probably not enough to be able to change your game.
I think, Bernie, for the most part, the contracts for equipment, the contracts start at the beginning of the year, and then you'll also have the guys, you'll have the guys that are joining the tour, maybe joining the Korn Ferry Tour out of the Korn Ferry school, the qualifying school. So for the most part, that I think those contracts kind of go January to December. Now, if you're on a 3-year deal, though, the fall might be a good time to experiment with a new set or some new stuff if you're going to make that change. I think what you're talking about, Bernie, and I think we have seen some players that have made equipment changes. I mean, even Steve Stricker played pings as a I think in college and after, and then made a change, had a big deal with another company. His game, who knows if it was the equipment or just the time or whatever, but that's where Stricker kind of had the game didn't go the right way. He was down for a little bit and then made a switch to a different company, and he's played very well since. So there are guys, but that was a big deal. That was probably I don't know. There were a lot of zeros, and so
in common,
it's very tempting, I think, for players. But like what you're talking about for maybe not that superstar player, it might make more sense to make sure that your equipment is what is really good for you, what you play well, what you putt well, the ball that you use, as opposed to, like you said, chasing $200,000. Go win, go play well, and that $200,000 will come back, many times over.
Yeah. I got a chance, and I followed this really close this week, was the tournament in Boise. And it means a lot to me because being back when I caddied on the Korn Ferry Tour back in the 90s, early 2000s, whatever, and I said last week on this program, it was my favorite tournament because they always took care of the caddies. I always stayed at the same hotel. Yeah, it's a Super 8. A Super 8 motel in Boise is where I always stayed. They knew me each and every year. I tried to get the same room. But it was my favorite tour when I caddied on the Korn Ferry Tour, which has had so many different names back in the day. They came to the 18th this week, and Grayson Sigg won the tournament, and it was a really bizarre finish by Rye. And here's a guy that also plays with 2 gloves. He had a chance to win the tournament, and the other guy that plays with 2 gloves, Tommy Gainey, finished last. But he came to the last hole, and they're both going to get their cards. Grayson Sigg's already got his card for finishing in the top 25 on the Korn Ferry Tour money list this year. And we talked about last week how you thought that the PGA Tour players would, coming up or down, as you said, down, would dominate more than the KFT players. Well, when they came to 18, Sigg was 1 down, and Rye hit it in the middle of the fairway. Sigg hit it in the shit way left. I mean, way left. Terrible angle. He was first to hit a great shot, actually, to about 35 feet, right to the flag on the fringe. And Rye hit his second shot over the green. And I was watching it by myself, so I had nobody to talk to. And I said to myself, he's fucked. And he had this little chip, maybe, I'm going to guess 15 feet, Steve, maybe 20. And he kept looking at this chip shot and looking at it and putting all these bad demons in his head. And I'm like, there's no way this is going to go good. and he hit a chip, went past the hole, down the hill, down, off the green, made double bogey, and lost the tournament. The reaction from Sig and his caddy, who were standing on the side of their green going, oh my God, we can win this thing, was priceless, because they didn't know how to react when Rye hit it, I don't know, probably 7-8 feet short, and then missed the putt and made double. It was a tough reaction, because you just won a tournament, but you just watch a guy throw up all over himself that should have won the tournament. The coolest thing about it, though, was the fact that Rye, after the round, walking off the 18th green, stopped and signed autographs for kids.
No, that's really cool, because that's a situation where you could be in another world, and so to do that, I didn't see that. That's a good, that shows a lot of the character of the man, and so more power to him. Things happen, and in Grayson's situation, he's just maybe thinking when that ball goes over the green, maybe I'll get in a playoff, and then now they're going to hand you the trophy. So it is different. It happens, though. Crazy things happen in golf, and it is the interesting thing with this three tournament qualifier or series is that you can play well in just one of these events and get your PGA Tour card back. JJ Spawn, who's kind of struggled this year on the regular tour, he played very well, tied for second. He's actually on the top of the Korn Ferry final list now to get his tour card, and I think they've estimated that at least the top 4 or 5 guys are in a good position to already be on the tour. So this is an interesting series or finals where you can get a lot done in just one tournament. It is different than, say, the Tour Championship.
Yeah, so there's 3 events. Top 25 money leaders after these 3 events get their card, and then they realign with the guys with the top 25 from the regular season events on the KFT. So they like zigzag 1-2, 1-1, 2-2, and stuff like that. It's important to finish as high as you can, because events like the Waste Management Phoenix Open, there might not be more than, let's say, a handful or maybe 10 players that are going to get off the list. So if you're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe 6, I don't know, used to be that high, you're going to get in Waste Management. But if you're like ranked number 42, 43, 44, you got no chance. So you're having to Monday qualify. Sean played this week, made the cut, didn't play very well on Sunday, finished 40-something, but he still accumulated money to where, he has a top 6, top 7, top 8 finish in one of these next 2 events. He's going to get his full, status back.
Yeah, that looking at this they had the finals in, it's loading here, in 2019. They do it by points. They take the money and they make it into points. In 19, it was 186 points was the tied for 24th. So they got their tour cards. Yesterday, like Spawn got 490 points, so he's good. Wow. It looks like Kelly Craft is tied 5th right now. He's got 170 points, so he just needs to probably make a cut and just play a little bit better. Sean, didn't play well on the weekend. He got 16.5 points. So it's tied. It says tied 32nd right now on the list, but he's got a ways to go. The guy that we've been talking about, and last week we talked about Taylor Montgomery, who fell from 24th to 26th in the regular season Korn Ferry standings. He tied for 26th this week. He has 60.5 points. So he's tied for 17th on the list. He's in a good position, but this kid is just struggling to get his tour card. He double bogeyed the last hole yesterday as well. So had he made par instead of 60.5 points, he'd have 100 points. So, it's just so hard sometimes. And especially like you're saying for Rye on the last hole, but even for Taylor to make 6 and fall back and lose those 40 points is a big setback.
So when you say tied for 26th, and I think you said what 17th he is now, Montgomery on the points list. So if you're one of the original top 25 guys, you can improve your status, but you don't blend in with the other guys. So you can't be first on the money list for the regular season and first on the money and maybe first in the points for the three things. So you can't take up 2 positions. So there's a few more guys that have an opportunity to get their cards because you can't double dip. You're not going to get two cards out of
they're trying to find 25 more guys through these finals. And so Grayson Sigg, who's the winner, he was already in that group of 25 through the regular season. So when you look at the Korn Ferry finals top 25, and that excludes these guys, he's not on the list. Exactly, Bernie. He's not on this list. He's already good. So what he can do is, like you said, they do keep track afterwards, and they'll kind of blend in for your ranking in terms of this category, this Korn Ferry Tour category. So so Taylor, like, he took 20s, tied for 26th in the tournament, but on the Korn Ferry finals list, he's tied 17th.
When COVID started last year, the Outlaw Tour, this tour that's in our backyard here in Arizona, became a bigger thing because it was a tournament that the people in Vegas had no, there was no NBA, there was no MLB, there was none of this, no live PGA Tour events, and the Outlaw Tour became a big thing because people can gamble on the Outlaw Tour. Well, when the men or the ladies didn't have an opportunity to play in an LPGA event or a PGA Tour event, everybody would come play in this Outlaw Tour. And Anna Norquist, ASU girl, Sun Devil, Forks Up, played in these Outlaw Tour events, and she played for the men's tees, 7,400 yards, 7,300 yards, which is, probably a good 1,000 yards longer than what she normally plays in, and was very competitive. Actually had the lead a couple of times in these Outlaw Tour events. She wins the Women's British Open this week, which I thought was a pretty cool thing.
Yeah, and it was fun to watch her. I've met her. So her husband, Kevin McAlpine, very good player, played college golf at Colorado State. He was trying to play a few years ago, and I worked with him a little bit on his game. He ended up caddying on the LPGA Tour. He met Anna. They're married now. Newlyweds, but it's kind of fun. I was actually giving Kevin some golf lessons last summer and met Anna. She came along to the lessons, so it was. I was excited for her. It's been a few years since she's won. She's been a major champion before. Kind of had those good times, had some down times, and then obviously for somebody from Sweden, this is a big deal to win the Women's British. So congratulations to her. And it was they played at Carnoustie, very difficult golf course. The last few holes are really, really difficult. She played them well, so she's a deserving winner.
Jimmy Johnson, caddies for Justin Thomas, who he made a lot of birdies this week and had some rough holes, but still finished in the top 10. Jimmy Johnson goes into the Hall of Fame of caddies, and it's pretty cool. This guy's, I remember back when my first year on the Hogan Tour, I guess it was, I don't know, whatever year it was, doesn't matter. But he was a player out there, and this guy can flat out play. And he comes to the point, and we've talked about this on this podcast before, you can take the best player at your club, I don't care what club it is, and stick them up against guys that are professionals that are playing mini tour events, and the mini tour event players are going to absolutely dust everybody at your club. And Jimmy Johnson one day decided, you know what? I don't have the game to go to the next level. He wanted to stay in the game, so he became a caddy. And I'll never forget, it was like when I think it was Nick Price, when his caddy back in the day, Squeaky, got sick, eventually passed away. Before he passed away, he told Nick Price that this is the guy you should get. He could help your game. And Jimmy Johnson, that's where he started. He started caddying for Nick Price, had a great career with Steve Stricker, Charles Howell, and, of course, now Justin Thomas. So, I mean, I've met the guy. He wouldn't recognize me right now if we ran into each other at a gas station or anything like that, or a bar. But I think it's a pretty cool honor to become a member of the Caddy Hall of Fame, this being the next caddy.
Yeah, and that's a cool thing. I didn't even know that, Bernie. And Jimmy's a good guy. Jimmy's a good guy. He's very he's been out there for a long time, like you said. He's very well liked, very well respected among the caddies. Stricker actually, I think, told Jimmy that, I'm not going to be playing as much. You should go find a younger player. And they found, Justin Thomas and Jimmy got together. And I think, in a way, it's a great partnership where for Justin, Jimmy has all that experience. But I think for Jimmy having a younger guy, I think it's almost, a kid, basically. It's almost like there's a little kickstart again. Like, you know what, this is pretty cool that I get to do this one more time, I guess you'd say. And it's different for him than having somebody that would, more of a veteran player. And I think that's been pretty cool for him. And I think there's probably been a little more of maybe a little more steam in his stride, just based on that, trying to really show this young kid how to do it.
Like a father-son kind of deal. Like, hey, listen, I could play.
I think maybe, what? Yeah, I don't know if it's father-son. I think it's maybe more like, maybe uncle, maybe crazy uncle. That's probably the thing. But that, that guy that can provide the experience of being there so often. And I think that's one thing that we talked about it last week, where you see a lot of the younger players, they come out with their buddies or their teammates, and that's fine. There's a comfort to that. But I do think that if you get a real good veteran caddy, it can provide a lot of help to a younger player. And sometimes I think the younger guys might look that way a little more often.
So I don't know if you ever remember this guy, and it's kind of a sad story, but I've met him many times. A guy named Jackson Brigman. He was a member of the Hogan Tour, Nike Tour, whatever, back in the late 90s, early 2000s. He passed away this week, which was sad. He was a really good dude, but he's known for something that, and you can probably talk about this. You've probably been through experiences like this, and I've seen it before too. In the finals of the 99 qualifying school, he misses a 4-foot putt on the last hole that he thought he had to make to get his tour card. This is back in the day that you played. It was 50 guys at tour school, and the top 50 got their cards. It was different than it was, back, like today. And he shot 65, and he was told, you got your card. And he was so excited and shaking and whatever. He walked into the scoring tent. The players that kept his card that year was a guy named Jay Hobby. And that doesn't really matter, but that's who it was. And so Brigman gets his card, freaked out, shaking. He knows he shot 65. He sees the 7 circles. I guess Hobby circled 7, boom, 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 boom. And Brigman just went, signed his card, and walked out. Well, one of the circles that was on his card had a 4 on it. It was circled, 4, birdie. But it was actually a par 4, and he actually made 3. So he signed, instead of 65, he signed for 66. And missed his card by 1 shot. You ever see anything like that?
I think there's times where players have signed the wrong card. That's a tough one, though. And he didn't ever get out there, did he?
No. I mean, he got a couple of the sponsor exemptions, the feel bad kind of thing. I think he had a 10th ones, maybe a 12th, but yeah, that was and I seeing him in 2000, you just didn't know what to say to him. Like you'd walk by him, hey Jackson, how you doing? Hey Bernie, something you didn't know. You weren't going to be like, hey, sorry, what happened? That. So one thing that always, what I learned from the caddy, is that whether it was Eeks, Judah, Bo Van Pelt, whoever I was caddying for, I would always go into the scoring trailer with them, and we'd go over it together to make sure that this didn't happen.
Right. And that's what you see most of the guys do. And you do see them, they have the little strip below where you're keeping your own card, and you put that up next to the scorecard, and bang, bang, bang. You'll see a lot of the guys now put a little check mark by each hole, as they go, if they're really checking it. So it's happened enough, and enough weird things have happened in the game where you go check your scorecard and you make damn sure that it's correct. I'm looking here, and I think this is probably the worst incorrect scorecard signing. It's Roberto Divincenzo
at the Masters.
And so in 1968 in the Masters, he basically, Bob Goalby, I believe, was keeping his card, and looking here, there was an error. There was a 4. Oh no, it was Tommy Aaron was his playing partner. It says playing partner Tommy Aaron inadvertently entered a 4 instead of a 3 on the scorecard. Divincenzo did not check the scorecard for the error before signing it, and according to the rules of golf, the higher score has to be counted. Bob Goalby was then the winner, because it would have been a playoff, right? DiVincenzo signs for one more. There is no playoff. Bob Goalby is now the Masters champion. And there were people that, were not happy with Goalby. He didn't do anything wrong. It wasn't his fault. But I would say that was the worst scoring error that I could think of. And I feel bad for, the story at Q School, but that's the Masters, for God's sake.
Goalby went on to have a pretty good career with ABC Sports doing golf, because he became a major champion. Do you remember a guy, Dahlby? You're probably, we're the same age. Do you remember a guy named Darren Stiles, who's now a rules official on the tour? Do you remember him?
Darren Stiles had a little quick swing, right? A little short quick swing.
Yeah, he probably won 5 or 6 times on the. Yeah, he played on
tour. It was a little. Yeah. I remember that name. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Get this, and I can't make this up. When he kept your card, he had 5 different colored pens in his pocket. 5. To where if you made birdie or eagle, eagle, this was this particular color, birdie, this particular color, par, bogey, double. So he had 5, and he even said, he goes, sorry guys, I'm nuts, but this is how I have to keep score. So he would keep 5, and they weren't Sharpies. They were more like those felt tip colored pens or whatever. He'd have a green, a yellow, a blue, a red, and I don't even know what it was. He was like, and he would apologize to everybody until everybody got to know that this is how it works. Because the first time he ever handed us a card, and I don't know who I was caddying for back then, I looked, and my player looked at it and went, what is this? Well, this is how I am. Just so you know, birdie is this, eagle's this, par. This guy was nuts, and now he's a tour official.
Yeah, I remember he was a little off.
He probably still is.
And now he's giving rulings. Hey, Bernie, what? I was watching Golf Channel a little bit, and it talked about the Boeing Classic, the senior tour event this year, the Champions Tour event in Seattle. And it was talking about a few years ago, and R.W. Eakes was in a playoff and lost a playoff there. Were you on the bag, or what tours have you caddied on? What tours have you caddied on?
So I was not there. R.W. Eakes' career took off after I left. I caddied on, I don't know, Hogan, Nike, Buy.com, Nationwide, Web, PGA Tour, Champions Tour, LPGA Tour. Like I said, I've never caddied in Canada, but I've caddied, I don't know, 6, 7 different. I mean, the Nationwide Corn Ferry is the same thing. I get it. I just mentioned all the names.
Yeah. But I mean, you caddied on the Corn Ferry, the PGA Tour, the LPGA Tour, and the Champions Tour. Now, tell me about your first PGA Tour event as a caddy. How different was it, or how did you feel as a compared to, I guess, probably a Hogan Tour event at that time?
So
or was the tour event, was the PGA Tour event the first one?
It was. So let's. I told the story last week about stepping on the golf ball. So let's skip and let's go to the first of it. So I turn 18. My mom gives me an option for my 18th graduation birthday. I can either A, go to England with her, which didn't excite me at all, but now I've married a girl from England. Or B, I can go spend the summer and caddy on the PGA Tour with this Dennis Trixler guy. So I chose B, Trixler. So my first event past the Phoenix. The Phoenix was just, I didn't know anything. So I get to Atlanta, and I'm nervous as hell. And this golf course, I don't know if anybody's ever been to Atlanta Country Club. This thing fucking hills like this. It's just like this all day long. And I'm carrying the staff bag, and my guy has to have 40 golf balls in it at all times because back in the day, it was a Balata ball. We changed balls every hole. I'm 18. I'm in decent shape back then, a lot better than I am now. I don't look as fat this week on the program, by the way. Thank you, Schubert. And we're traveling up and down these hills. And this is Davis Love. He was an amateur at Georgia Tech. It's his first event. And I remember standing on the range on Saturday. We've made the cut. We're getting paired with Tom Watson on Thursday at the Atlanta Classic. And I'm watching Davis Love hit balls, and I'm like, man, this is really weird. We don't tee off for an hour, but we're tied with this guy. I find out now that he got the wrong tee time, Trixler. It's his fault, not mine. I now have to run to the players' lounge. Security won't let me in because they didn't do that back then. I have to get the guy out. We got 22 minutes to hit balls and get to the first tee. We get to the first tee. We play the first 2 holes. We get to the third hole. He hits it in this back right bunker. Okay. We finish the hole. I rake the bunker. 18 years old. I rake the bunker. And Bruce Edwards, the longtime caddy for Tom Watson, comes over and says, hold the flag for me. I'm going to show you how to rake a bunker. You want to talk about throwing up on yourself? Bruce Edwards, we talked about Caddy Hall of Fame. Caddy Hall of Fame has to give me a raking tip during the middle of the 3rd round of the Atlanta Classic because, as an 18-year-old, it's rake, and move on. It was the most, it may be one of the most embarrassing things that ever happened to me on tour, but it taught me going forward how to rake a bunker properly. A lot of people don't understand that when you hit it in a bunker, you want the grooves when you do the sand back and forth to go as close towards the hole as possible. You don't want to do it sideways. We have the grooves this way and this way. You want to go back and forth really smooth. And there's one thing I learned from him is that, and I saw him 15 years ago later in Provo, or not Provo, but Park City for a Champions Tour event. He was struggling with his health then, and I walked over and I shook his hand and I thanked him for that moment. And you know what's funny, Dahlby? He remembered that moment, which I thought was pretty cool.
Oh wow, that's very cool. That's very cool.
Yeah. All right, Shu, where are you at? It's time for Who You Got, sponsored by our good friends at Burrito Express, your local burrito joint. I had burritos yesterday from Burrito Express, and they were to die for, like normal. I don't think Shu wants to join. Yeah, there he is. Yeah,
there he is.
Hi, Shu. How are you,
gentlemen? Hello. Yeah, we didn't play Who You Got last week, so I don't know what you guys are talking about. No, I did.
Well, some didn't play.
No, yeah, I certainly didn't participate in the Who You Got segment last week because I not only picked 1 but 2 people that didn't want to play in the tournament. So I told you we peaked after Kevin Kisner. We peaked.
So let's just recap this real quick, how it went. So Shu, who was the defending champion because he had the winner Kisner in week one, came out firing out of the blocks last week and picked, and the idea made sense. He picked Louis Oosthuizen, who played well there at Liberty National before. And then Dahlby goes and looks at his stuff from the PGA Tour and finds out that Louis not playing. So Schubert now gets to pick another guy, but he has to wait. Dahlby fires in with Dustin Johnson, who missed the cut. I fired in with a very easy pick and Rory McIlroy, who played so well. He finished 43rd. Schubert gets another pick. Then he picks Patrick Reed, who doesn't play and now has double pneumonia. So that's how last week's Who You Got went. It was, and I told you, Shu, at the end of the thing last week, I said, make sure you pick a guy that's playing. After you picked Louis, and you picked a guy that did not play. I don't know how. Listen, I don't know how that's possible. I don't know what the Vegas odds or something like that are, but astronomical. You could be retired by now.
I told you guys we peaked with the Kevin Kisner pick. I wasn't gonna really be able to top that, and I certainly went in the opposite direction last week. So, nowhere to go but up from here, guys. For me, nowhere to go but up.
Well, you went from the top of the mountain to the bottom of the lake.
That's right. Now we can climb back up. Climb back up.
All right, so I'm the defending champion with a guy that finished 43rd. I mean, which is absolute. If people are gambling on us, it's dog shit. So I'm going with the guy that lost in a playoff today. I'm going with Cam Smith this week for my pick. Dahlby, you're second because your guy at least played. Schubert gets to go last because this guy didn't even compete.
Well, I am going to celebrate Jimmy Johnson getting in the Caddy Hall of Fame. I'm going to take Justin Thomas.
All right. Again,
let's get your logic.
There's no logic here. Nope, there's no logic this week. We're just picking a name. We looked at the list and we're just picking a name because the logic failed me last week miserably. So we're just winging it. Harris English is the pick this week.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, I do too, actually. And Dahlby, can you check real quick? Make sure that Harris is playing.
I already looked. He's on the list. I already checked.
I saw Louis Oosthuizen's. Louis is in the field this week. I don't know how he's feeling, but he's in the field. So, yeah, Harris is in the field.
See, we're good.
All right. Shu, thanks for everything you do. Thanks for making my face look a little bit skinnier this week. I
do what I can.
I don't know what kind of I don't know what technical stuff you can do, but it looks better this week, and I'm not as disappointed as I was last week.
Okay, well, I'm
hey, Shu.
Yes.
Shu, can I ask you a question?
Please.
So, the team that wins the Super Bowl, who is that team? Is it the team that wins the last game?
That would be correct, Dahlby. That would be accurate.
Bernie, John Rahm, and you are wrong.
All right. Thanks, Shu. All right. All right, Dahlby, what do you got to add before we end this beautiful podcast?
Have I changed your opinion on the Tour Championship format with my explanations?
You might have. I mean, and I get it. Yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, yeah, you got to win. You got to win a 7-game series. You got to win. In basketball, NBA, you got to win the Super Bowl. It's a final game. But this thing's like a playoffs. I mean, shouldn't you win one? Shouldn't you be credited? I mean, I get it's 4 times the points and things like that. I see where Rahm's coming from. I mean, I see it. I mean, so let's just say that Finau wins this week. Finau wins next week. Finau finishes 3rd or 4th in Atlanta and doesn't win it. I mean, isn't that kind of like, really? He's not the Tour champion and he finished first, and 4th in 3 events where somebody finished 12th, 2nd, and 1st and then wins it all?
Yeah, I think if you're going to do it your way, you got to do a cumulative point thing, with the 3.
I agree.
And that's fine, but that's a different format. So what I'm saying is, right now the format's what it is. No need to bitch about it.
All right, Dahlby. You know what next week is, right?
Next week is show 8.
There you go. Show 8. All right. Thanks to Shu. Thanks to Crespin. Dahlby, have a great week. We'll talk next week, bud.
All right. Hit them straight, everybody.